There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5 and you can both B Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire on, or Roy Blecker. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. Of course, we'll join the mighty Met KMET 1490 AM at the bottom of the hour, as we usually do. Lots of on. Newsome makes an ass of himself as Davos deal finally gets an interview. And his bad trip went even worse. A little bit of the protesters and some of the interesting things I got caught up in. Hopefully I can get some videotape of it, of the second half of it that you didn't see on there, my grisly encounter with the mentally deranged and psychotic protesters that were out. Not the ones who were out in the street. They were fine. The other ones were just off their frickin' rocker. More arrests in the Minnesota case, 2 of them on the church invasion. Prop 36, maybe the big New York Times poll. All that, but we wanted to cover a little bit. The home invasion attempt by an armed man with a knife was thwarted by the family dog. Yes, that is correct. The family dog got in there and chased away a would-be crook who, armed with a knife, that was beating on the door and threatening to kick it down. But Fido saved the day. We have a little bit of the footage of that. We're going to show you of the armed bandit who was attempting to break into a home. As you see him walking through there with the knife after the dog had chased him. I don't know if that's before or after the dog had chased him away. So, good job. He was a pit bull. Let's see if we can get his nice, smiling, shining face up here. Pit bull mix. There he is. There's the pooch that chased the knife-wielding man away from a home invasion robbery attempt in SoCal. We'll get into the Gavin Newsom's disastrous trip at Davos, and he thought he owned the place. He's been there before. He said the climate change and that we're all going to die of diesel smoke and we're going to burn to death, we're going to freeze to death, and the whole con artist crap that he tries to pull off amongst that everywhere else. One of the interesting things that Gavi has been on the plate for has been his undenying support of people coming into our country and staying here illegally. $13 billion we paid for illegals' health care last year. You, the taxpayer of California, and now we're finding out because the Trump administration is suing over $1 billion. It appears, or they're alleging, the federal funds went to pay health care for illegals. And that is totally against U.S. law. So Goofy Gav finally got him a interview at the end of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, that he's been basically shut out of, and he's been prancing around and throwing hissy fits about that the whole week. Here's his answer. The man asked him, do you think you went too far with giving illegals health care benefits? Unquestionably, undeniably, unlimited. Here we go.
Do you think that your party went too far, or that you went too far? And I think, for instance, in extending Medi-Cal to the California health care program to undocumented immigrants? Like, do you?
Well, two different
I guess on the
questions.
big picture and the small picture,
Yeah.
you feel like you went too far?
Two different questions. Do I believe in universal health care? Yes, regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay, and your status. I campaigned on that, and we delivered on that, and I'm proud of that. We're one of 16 states to provide care to people regardless of their immigration.
No, we don't care. We'll point a gun at you and make you pay for somebody else's health care regardless. What's next? Are we going to take the poor people of Ethiopia and pay for their health care? I mean, where does this stop? It's not unlimited funds. He's unapologetic about doing that, about doing illegal stuff. You cannot use federal funds to provide health care or benefits for people in the country illegally. And he stomps all over that. That's why he's getting ignored at the Davos conference, the World Economic Forum, where he thought he ruled. He thought he was a kingfish over there. Well, he got his little rear end handed to him. Takes no responsibility for the fires or burning up the Palisades. In fact, he's endorsing Karen Bass, Democratic Socialist, de facto, to run for mayor. I guess, his partner in crime for destroying Pacific Palisades, Altadena, and more. Here we go. Oh, we thought we were going to go. Here we go.
For instance, you're supporting the mayor of LA for re-election after these terrible fires that a lot of your citizens do feel was in part because of government mismanagement. Do you just reject that narrative that the government isn't anything to do with these things?
I absolutely accept that we all should be held to a higher level of accountability in terms of our governance, and I think there's many areas of reforms that are necessary, so many areas of reforms that were underway. We can get into the specifics of any one of these issues, but the general notion that in the middle of winter, with 100-mile-an-hour winds that were attached to a fire, that somehow, by the way, there were 16 major fires in Southern California over a 2-week period, that somehow that...
Again, what's with the weird leg cross again? It's totally weird. Well, he's just totally weird. But he takes no responsibility. In fact, he's proud that he and Bass burnt down some of the most expensive real estate, destroyed people's lives in Southern California. Oh, I'd do it again. Oh, let's re-elect Buffoon Bass and we'll give you more of this sauce. Absolutely incredible. Frank Luntz put out this on the X machine. Many of Gavin Newsom's positions read as if they were reverse engineered from Republican attack ads. California spent billions offering Medicaid to undocumented immigrants and millions more on providing transgender surgeries for prisoners, some of them on death row. And that's Frank Luntz, far from being on the vast right-wing conspiracy. Our great IE Congressman Jay Olbernolte put the questions out on this alleged federal funds being spent on health care for illegals. Here we go.
So we're having a discussion today about why health insurance costs so much and how we can better allocate ratepayer dollars to healthcare costs. Mr. Markovich, I was pretty astonished last year when I heard that Blue Shield had contributed $500,000 to a committee supporting the passage of Prop 50 in California. Prop 50, as everyone in this room knows, was an effort to shift 5 congressional seats from Republican control to Democrat control. It's a pretty transparent, partisan undertaking that passed. Reasonable minds can disagree whether or not that's something that should have been supported. I myself feel like mid-cycle redistricting erodes voters' trust in our elections and our democracy. I oppose doing it in Texas. I oppose doing it in California. Reasonable minds can have a discussion about that, but I was just astonished that a health insurance company would wade into a political debate in such an enormous way. Why on earth did you do that?
Well, respectfully, Congressman, we didn't do that. What we did, we have a long history of Blue Shield of California is contributing to candidates from both parties at the federal and state level, including Governor Schwarzenegger, Brown, and Newsome.
Yes, because they're getting ultra rich. And they're depriving you of health care because they're taking the money. Good job from Jay for pointing that out. One last on the Clinton, or on the stupid Newsome files. Here we go.
Relationships are in dormancy, they're not dead. I don't use those binary terms. Don't fall prey to that. That's a bit hyperbolic, and I'm prone to a little of that at times. Dormancy. We can, he's an invasive species, Donald Trump. He's not, he is. He took over the Republican Party. They're just, I mean, he's got, you know, a few of them. Lindsey Graham, I mean, speaking of the knee pads.
What's this infatuation with sexual stuff? First it was, you know, if you don't mate with Trump, he's going to eat you like T-Rex. And now this on Lindsey Graham because he's getting on, you know, because of Scott Bessent's comments. Now he feels he has to act like a big man and come back at everybody. Man, he's turning like oh, well, I've done this myself. He's turned into a pathetic figure. At least maybe the world is seeing the pathetic figure he really is. We'll get into the protests that were going on down at the Erica Kirk appearance down at Harvest and Riverside and much, much more. Yes, we will. I want to get to the protests of the Erica Kirk appearance at Harvest down there on Arlington, right by where Adams, right by the Riverside Airport. Big church. It was Greg Laurie or something. I've actually never got inside. I was going to go inside of that, but I got thwarted. Kind of like that robber did. Out there, the first protest is you come there to Adams and Arlington, and they were on the sidewalk, and those people were cool. No problem. You know, they didn't block the sidewalk. They were standing on it, but there was enough room to maneuver through or get by without, they weren't blocking ingress or egress. As you will see here, here's some of the first video, and I violated the first rule. Should not have shut off the camera. Let's see if we can get it. There you go. Should not have shut off the camera, as they say. But I went through the first part and I thought, okay, these guys are cool. They didn't give me any flack. They just asked me what I was doing. I told them I'm taping for the radio, and I had my We the People flag shirt that you guys have seen a lot that I wear of that, and seemed to be no problem. I mean, you know, everybody's Second Amendment. You got the right to assemble. We'll get to that in a second. Then I walked into the hornet's nest, as they say. You go up the street and it looks like where the main entrance is because the parking lot appears to be on the other side. And I got hit, thumped. I mean, when I got to the entrance where where the psychotic protesters were, I mean, there must have been 30 or 40 of them. They surrounded me yelling, F you, you're going to die, blah, blah, take that shirt off, yada, yada, yada. You know, so I just stood there for about, because I could hear a little bit, but I mean, there were so many, they were shouting the cell phones, and anybody that's got any footage. Someone said there's footage of it. I haven't found it, or they seen it. They said it was absolutely bizarre. If you've seen footage or look for it, send it to me, link it to me, record it and send it to iNewsWire, Roy Bleckert on Facebook or X or any of these goofy platforms. I mean, they went absolutely ballistic. They thought they were going to be tough guys or whatever. One guy was trying to chest bump me, and I just, okay, what are you going to do? Here's one incident, and this was where it was, and I believe, like I said, I've never been in Harvest. I think this was at the main. And you hear, this is the mob that was around there that surrounded me when I got there. So you see, there were a few cops there. And you could hear them shouting. They had bullhorns and that. There was one lady, one lady with a walker, the cops had to escort through. I think she was coming out early, I don't know, or late. It was about, I'm going to say between 7:30 and 8 o'clock by the time I got there. Probably more like 8 by the time I got up to there, so I don't know how long this thing went inside. But these guys were, I mean, they thought they were going to be tough or whatever the heck. They're just a bunch of little squealy little cowards. And if they think getting their point across is by shouting and doing all this, and again, you do not have the right to protest. We brought you, and this is from CNN. We ran it the other day or that, so we'll bring it back just to remind these cats. Freedom of speech is not absolute. The Congressional Research Service has explained. The Congressional Research Service. Americans generally have freedom of speech on public property, but not necessarily in private places, legal analysts said. In fact, that space, like a church, is open to visitors does not mean there is a constitutional entitlement to use that space for protest. Well, the First Amendment protects citizens from government censorship. Freedom of speech does not apply in private spaces or private people or organizations, Freedom Forum said. In fact, the First Amendment protects private people and companies' right to make their own decisions about speech in their spaces. It's not absolute, and you don't have the right, in my view, and a lot of legal scholars' view, which I'm not one of, you don't have the right to block other people's ingress or egress. You don't have a right to stand in the street or block it. Public property. Now, like I said, the first line of protesters on Arlington, just north of Adams, were fine. They didn't block anything. They didn't yell and scream. They held their signs up, whatever they wanted to do, and that's fine. And we can have I talked to them. They talked normal. They weren't hollering or shouting or trying to intimidate. These cats were, and that's what I'm saying, this was a well-oiled machine. They had on the deal and people were going by honk of whether they were agreeing with them or not, who knows. But they had the cool protesters on Arlington there of that. Then they had the absolute psychotic, try to intimidate you, get in your face, threaten you types at the entrance of the Harvest Church or whatever they call it. Driven by it many times, just never been in there. But there was a well-oiled machine that was there last night. It was very organized, all the same. Most of them, I would say, between 18 and 25. their leader has them going down, because I think Erica's going down to San Diego today, and they're got their travel plans and everything, probably with a lot of the same folks, or at least the head organizers. And again, like I said, it was a well-oiled machine. And it was well organized, and they had it set up so where if you're just looking, if you're driving up and down Arlington by the Harvest Church there, well, you think, okay, there's nothing, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing even quasi-illegal or even disrespectful per se. It's like you say, I talked to those cats, and they were, they just say, hey, what are you doing here? Why, da-da-da-da-da, and I, obviously I'm filming. Oh, okay, I told them, I'm from, iNewsWire, da-da-da, we're doing, oh, okay, we just wanted to know what you're doing, da-da-da-da-da. And, that was fine. Like I said one night, and again, I shouldn't have turned the damn phone off. Because like I say, I made the blitz down, and I'm going down, and I'm seeing this crowd, and, because it's 7:30, there's not people coming in and out per se, so they were probably, when I got there, they just went, like, you think, you would have thought I was a chicken in the middle of a pack of 50 wolves. They just went, it was
40 seconds until we start. 40 seconds.
It was definitely interesting to see 40 or 50 people trying to threaten one guy, me, and they didn't have guts enough to do anything. We'll pick this up on the other side when we join KMET, and we'll get into Councilwoman Shaylinda Bernard's comments from Tuesday's council meeting and how this all worked out. When, as Jesse said, we're going to be joining the Mighty Met KMET here in a few seconds on this rockin' and rollin' Practice Friday. Life never seems to be boring, no matter.
2 seconds, here we go.
Today, IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky side guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Joining our vast video audience, Evil FB Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Type in iNewsWire, Roy Blecker. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face on that. Catch up on all the stuff. We did the dog. Thwarted a knife-wielding dude that was trying to bust into a home invasion suspect. They got film of him, at least with a knife going on. The good old Fido, whatever it was a pit bull mix, it looks like. He didn't want to mess with him, so he went on his way. The other part of the story, and this was in La Cresta in Tujunga, which I can guarantee you almost is not the barrio. That's a very exclusive, high-dollar area. Cops didn't even show up. At least according to the report that's on KTLA 5. So, we had a lot of stuff to do. Gavin Newsome getting punked in Davos again. Man, he's coming unhinged. And I thought, as cool a cat as he's been all the time of that, first time I've really seen Newsome look like nervous, not knowing what to do. Him getting snubbed by the Davos World Economic Forum, which he thought he owned. I think and Trump owning him and all that shook him to the core. Maybe we'll get into the New York Times poll, the arrests in Minnesota on the church invasion, and things like that. But this is what we led in or came in with on that on the web. But last night, Erica Kirk was down at the Harvest Church in Riverside by Adams and Arlington, yada, yada, yada. So after the show, and I got things shut down, I went down there and figured, well, I'll check out what's going on. So I did the video stuff and that, and the dudes holding the signs and stuff on Arlington, cool. We had nice conversations. They weren't yelling or nothing or this and that. But I got so, and I've never been there, so I go up and around the side street where it looks like the entrance is. And I got hit by this mob, probably 40 or 50 of them, because they didn't have nothing to do. And I was wearing my We the People shirt, like you've seen me wear a lot in public meetings and on here. And I mean, they're just all around me, you know, saying, we're going to, you know, you're going to die and we're going to kill you and this and that and all, you know. And well, one dude did try to chest bump me a little bit. And I said, hey, what are you going to do? And they were yelling so loud I couldn't tell that. There were they had cell phones all, every one of them must have been taping me. I did not, and again, I shouldn't have shut the camera off, but I thought, okay, when I saw the first guys were pretty cool, I figured, well, nothing more. I'm going to go in and see what's going on. So maybe there's, you know, maybe we can go in and see inside what's going on with the Kirk deal and that, or who's there. No, I didn't make it that far. They were on me, like I said. I could have been a chicken in the middle of 50 wolves surrounding me. That's about what it was like. I mean, they were that, but they didn't have guts enough to do anything. There were some cops there standing there too, so I wasn't necessarily fearful that they would do anything as much. But you never know. All it takes is one lunatic, and they were all ranting and raving. You, like I said, I couldn't hear mostly what they were saying. You know, and you got 50 people surrounding you and yelling and screaming at you. You know, take your shirt off. I said, that guy did respond to. I said, well, you try to take it off me. But it was a wild scene. Like I said, they probably didn't have nothing to do for an hour or something. They're out there and they saw me, and it was like, okay, here's the red meat going on. So back to, and I want to catch what Shaylinda Bernard, the Moreno Valley City Councilman, said Tuesday night, because she mentioned it. I mentioned the Erica Kirk part. I didn't mention the minute and a half she did or play that, which I'm going to do now. This is the first part of her lead-in comments to what she said about the Erica Kirk appearance on Let's Make Heaven Crowded or whatever it was down there. That's the widow of Charlie Kirk, who was politically assassinated 3 or 4 months ago. But here's Shaylinda at the council meeting Tuesday night in the city zoo, otherwise known as the Moreno Valley Council Chambers.
Can do better for our community and our members out here. I know most people are probably like, oh my gosh, she's going to let them off the hook. Honestly, this administration is so exhausting, and we're only a year in. And after.
Notice how Erlen, well, let's get it in the big part. Erlen Gonzalez, council member number 3, is nodding as she's saying this. And we played his comments about that, and Mayor Baby Jesus Ulysses Cabrera. He's nodding as Shaylinda's saying, oh, you know, the evil Trump administration is going, the boogeyman. Oh, he's going to get you. You know, we don't like low inflation. We don't like eggs from $12 down to $1.47, Shay, or Erlen, or Baby Jesus.
Through everything that's going on in Minnesota and what's possibly going to
happen. See, you see him shaking his head. In Minnesota, that's priority. That's top priorities in Moreno Valley to deal with the city of Moreno Valley business.
Happen with the battalion coming out of Alaska.
The battalion coming, you know, they're going to put the military in there and take over Minnesota because Trump is evil.
Just think that at this point, my only job as a resident and as a United States citizen is to just uphold the Constitution to the best of my ability, even if the people in the administration refuse to do so.
Okay, Shaylinda. Why don't you come in as a private citizen representing yourself and uphold the Constitution and defend your actions right here sitting next to me, and we'll go as long as you would like. All I can do, Shay, is open the door. It's up to you to walk through it and do it in the proper form where these things should be discussed.
And to tell you that your neighbors are important, regardless of where they come from. I know the Supreme Court says it's okay to racially profile people based on race, how they speak, the accent they may have, the job they may work.
It's not what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said you could use that. Law enforcement can use that in the process of doing their duties as enforcing the law, Shay. If they're looking for a black male suspect, 6'4", 170 pounds, can they use that to probable cause to do me? But if you match that description, they can. It's not racial profiling. That's dealing with the facts of the case and protecting your rights, Shay.
Location you may find them at. I'm going to tell you that nowhere in any religion or anything that I think you should ever be able to racially profile. Also, to my friend,
never racially profile. Again, you've said it. If the cops are putting out a description for someone that attacked you, beat the crap out of you, and raped you, and they described him as a 5'9", 200-pound Hispanic male, that's racial profiling. In your terms. You cannot use racial profiling. Well, what do you call it?
that have told me that they are going to be protesting tomorrow outside of Harvest. I'm all here for freedom of speech. That's fine. If Erica Kirk wants to do everything but stay at home with her kids the way she keeps telling me to.
My bros and sisters out there protesting. And Erica Kirk is telling me Erica Kirk is inside Harvest Church saying whatever. And she's not. Tell me where Erica Kirk forced you to do anything, Shay.
Stay at home with my kids. That's fine. She can go there and make heaven as crowded as they want, but I will not be drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid with the rest of those people sitting up in there listening to her and them tomorrow. So with that, So
I'm not drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid. So these are facts and evidence. So, again, as I walk up there, Shay and others, and yeah, like I said, the first cats were cool. The dudes at the entrance were threatening, intimidating, blocking, racial profiling. Your protesters, your brothers and sisters. Just like with Gavin Newsom, it's good to see. And in my world, I would rather know what's coming at me than have it hit me on the blind side. That's what's good about this. One thing about the videotape, the broadcasting, the live, these, is you can't, whether you're Gavin Newsom, Shaylinda Bernard, Donald J., you can't make it up. You can't. It eventually will show who you really are. Some of the other interesting things, and Supreme Court of the United States on Prop 50, you know, the redistricting thing, has said, well, in 1 week, I think, or maybe less, January 29th, state of California has to answer some questions they got. Sounds like SCOTUS is in a move to maybe block that or at least hear it. And if they take it up to hear it, most of the time they're reversing the decision. So we'll be following that one closely, as they say. The big arrest came Shawnlita Louisa Allen, the one who had led the church invasion in Minnesota.
Lockup's in there.
Got the big
We'll bring
purple
her in, she'll stand off to the side.
as you see there on
I
the
know this
edge.
only because I just did it once.
She was arrested today, along with this guy. Let's see where's your guy. Return my along with this guy. Let's see if we can get to it. Let's see. There he is. That other lunatic that was on there screaming racial profiling, saying, you know, it's these white people that ain't supporting the Somalis or whatever. William Kelly, I think is his name. Using the same tactics as the Harvest Church protesters. For those of you who want to support that. Now, the big controversy, and they're not done yet, the Department of Justice under Pam Bondi, which I have been very critical of, did put out or did ask for arrest warrant for Don Lemon in his part of it. The judge refused that. And here's a picture of that. The Patriot Oasis has that. Or he's saying it's Judge Zia M. Parkul has refused to sign the charges that the DOJ brought against Don Lemon. It's alleged that his wife works for Keith Ellison, the attorney general there, who, along with this and George Floyd and all that. There's no politics that runs across this. Good work, finally, by the Department of Justice. This is what we want: investigations, indictment, incarceration. The 3 I's. Turns out, according to Elon Musk, jailing or deporting repeat violent offenders greatly reduces the murder rate. CBS News and many others have been reporting U.S. homicide rate in Donald J. Trump in the first year is at its lowest rate since it's been in 125 years. It's dropped in our biggest cities and the cities where it's been concentrated, where the ICE raids have been going on. This is from Frank Luntz, not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, I can guarantee you. So this whole mantra of all this and bunch of evil white hillbillies and all that you're trying to portray, or a lot of you are, from eggs a year ago to $12 a piece to now 12 cents a piece here in Moreno Valley. inflation being stopped, our borders secured, 500,000 deported, over 2 million self-deported. And crime is coming down, inflation's coming down, our economy's looking better. Real wage growth is up. In the first year again in Donald Trump, when it was down 4%, which means your buying power, your dollar, lost money every year Joe Biden was a president. The 5 years Trump has been president, real wage growth has increased. Means your labor bought you more than the day before. Under the Biden chaotic, oppressive, racist regime, every day you went to work, your dollar that you earned that day bought you less. Very simple. It should not be rocket science to figure out. It seems to be very hard concept, this simple concept, for people to understand. The big New York Times Siena College poll came out, well, this morning. They do about usually the first and midterm of the year. Few voters, as the headlines, and of course they're going to distort, few voters say the Trump second term has made the country better, as the poll finds. The majority of the voters said that Trump is focused on the wrong priorities and they disapprove his handling of top issues. The president still enjoys strong support from Republicans. Yeah, those evil white hillbillies. It was very interesting how they frame that, because you take the first question. Do you think the country is generally better off or worse off than it was, the same or worse off? So you got better, 32%, about the same, 19%, which means 51% are saying either we're at the same or better off, 49% worse. Right there. And that's the divided areas, Tom Del Baccaro's book, and he said many times. That's our polarized electorate. It wouldn't matter. 49% are just automatically going to say Trump's evil no matter what. It's evil that he brought eggs down from $12 a dozen or $1 a piece, down to 12 cents and $1.47. Oh, that's evil. And you can see that. Democrats, 90% worse off. Republicans are only 73. And you can see the hate. That tells you right there the hate and the vitriol the left have. And they're going to distort, stomp, and scream until you are under the control of them. They want to be the dictator. They will lie, cheat, and steal to make you that way. And it's just they say, well, less than a third of the country think it's better off than was the President Trump these years ago. But if they say from even to better is 51%. The majority of the people, the majority of the American people either feel the country is at least even or better off than it was a year ago. They disapprove of this, of Russia and this and that. Well, I don't, if you're just casually following the news or you're just getting it from the main broadcast chattering nabobs of negativism, you're going to think, hell, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. But I will say this, and I do agree with this one part, and I don't know for the life of me why Trump didn't release the Epstein files, but that's his worst issue. He's down 3-1 on that issue from handling the Epstein files. And they could not have done worse. The good news for Mr. Trump, they write, is that the share of voters who say this country is on the right track, and they say, well, low, and it always is, historically, I don't care who's been a president, has remained largely unchanged since April. It also remains higher than it was under his predecessor, the oppressor, Joe Biden Jr., who on this question alienated not just Republicans and independents, but also half the Democrats. Under Trump, most Republicans still feel the country is headed in the right direction. So even though the Democrats know that Trump is on the right direction, they have been told from the dais of the Council of Moreno Valley multiple times to the District of Criminals and every point in between, the constant false narrative that Donald Trump is worse than Satan, the devil himself. And this is where you get that. One of the worst presidents in history, 84% Democrat. They hate him. Not, maybe he's good, maybe he's below average. The almost every Democrat said he is the worst president in history. And that is because of the record. When every year he's been in office, there's been real wage growth for the average American, and that has not been done in our modern history, if ever. 5 years in a row. Shay. That right there tells you everything, and that confirms the divided era that we're living in. On immigration, voters are broadly more favorable towards Trump's policies and their implementation. Yet we're told every day how ICE is the evil. They're snatching people off the streets. They're taking billy clubs and beating them. And if not out, they're just outright shooting at them. Killing them. Yet they're still holding strong on this. And they even go to the Democrats don't say that there's been no change on how secure our border is from Biden to Trump. That right there shows you how delusional they are. No matter what you can say. The border on day one, when Trump was sworn in, the border was secure. The illegal invasion stopped. 30 million were not coming across. 100,000 a day. That's the reality, folks. Your perception is your reality. But reality is reality, and we got to start getting back to that. And let's try to be a little bit more civil and not try to stoke the flames. of going after your fellow man. That'll do it for today. So we usually say at this time, mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours live. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right. Have a great night.
You got it. Shut